I'm in the middle of moving house, so I thought now would be the perfect time to make a new video. There's been quite a lot happening, and you haven't heard from me since October. There's very good reasons for that, so let's check it out. If you haven't seen, Decaying Salvage has had a massive Steam page update. So if you go ahead and give that a wish list just by clicking on this little button, I'd really appreciate it. Alright, so aside from personal things happening, which we won't get into, there's been some major changes. If you've seen the new trailer, you'll be like, hey, this looks completely different to the previous devlogs I saw. What the hell happened? So I haven't released a video since October. Then I mentioned that, hey, I've been working crazy long hours, crazy long weeks in order to get the demo of the game ready so I could send it out for funding applications. I decided to take a little walk outside because, hey, I need a break. Jeez, that was a massive dev sprint. I'm glad my game has a solid direction. What if? Where are you going with this? Well, maybe. No, we went through all the major changes in We Are Not Camera. Resident Evil style. You bastard. The thought of fixed camera angles is something that had never crossed my mind when I started designing Decaying Salvage. The point of Decaying Salvage was to do something I'm familiar with, which is first person, which is horror, using the same framework, release it relatively quickly, and get on to the next game. No, my mind had different ideas. The plan was also to be very specific with what I designed so I didn't have the thing that happened with We Are Not Alone, which if you followed those devlogs you'll see the game started looking like this, moved on to this, then eventually released looking like this. Those changes easily delayed We Are Not Alone by months, and although yes, it did delay it, the game wouldn't be what it released as without those changes. Those changes gave me more time to think about things and just completely change how the story works, especially the end. I'm really proud with how We Are Not Alone turned out and released, and the general consensus is, hey, it's a good game. So yeah, check that out if you haven't, but we're talking about Decaying Salvage. So with those thoughts in my head, instead of taking that nice long break I was looking forward to, I decided to just jump right in and head straight towards Burnout City. I'm not there yet, but you know, we'll see how it happens. I took the first person camera, moved it to the corner of the room, and got the game running. No animations, just a basic model flying around. I got the triggers up and running for switching between cameras, and hey, it worked. The environment also gave more of a feeling of claustrophobia, and my mind just started racing. I immediately saw a few problems here, but that's good. Seeing problems in game dev is a really good thing, especially for me. You know, you can just have time to just figure things out, try solve these issues. Or you can just hit a roadblock, go to Google, get someone else to answer it for you, you'll stumble across something else in another hour or two and follow the same pattern. Did a video about that. Almost 2 years ago, I think. It's called The Tutorial Trap. You can check it out somewhere around here. The main problem I found when testing this is that almost everything I designed just wasn't going to work switching to fixed camera perspectives. The biggest issue is that visibility and what the player can and needs to be seeing in order to know just basically where to go. If I kept the environments as is, players wouldn't be able to see where to go, they wouldn't be able to see specific doors, and it would just be really frustrating. Let me get my notepad out. Okay, hopefully this isn't too shaky. So let's say we take the original design of the hub room, which you've got just, it's kind of like a big square. You've got exits here, 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 and here. In first person, you can easily just walk in, see everything, turn around and see everything you need to do. But in terms of fixed camera, if you place the camera here, you're only able to see that. You're missing these. Okay, so the other thing I could do is add, you know, another camera here, which then shows you this. And you just have a trigger in the middle which switches these cameras. I decided that this would be ultimately confusing, and it's just better to just redesign things in a way that you don't need multiple camera switches in a single room, unless of course you'll need to focus on a small object. Say you've got, well, let me change color. Say you've got a little puzzle here. The character walks in all the way to there. This camera will then zoom in, and then when they finish the puzzle, zoom back out. To test this idea out, I went and played games of the genre that, you know, are more recent, also a little bit older, just to see, like, am I overthinking this? Is this a problem? Now, I'm not going to name names, but there is one that's a little bit more recent. It looks beautiful. The story is pretty cool. I pushed through and played it and really enjoyed it. The issue was that signposting, lighting, where to go on specific screens is really not clear. You do not even understand there is an exit there without lots of fumbling around. And knowing from player reviews, player feedback on previous games, these little annoyances, especially in indie games for some reasons, really irk people and really just get them to hit that refund button straight away. So this is a fundamental design issue that I'm taking into account when I make every single room. I don't want the player to be confused about, hey, there was a door there I didn't know was there. There's a path here I didn't know was here. That is just shitty design, and I don't want to fall into that trap. I don't want people to be confused. I want people to just enjoy it. So after wrestling with this change in my head, I decided the best thing to do was ask the community, ask you what your ideas were on it. And it was very interesting what came back from that. One of the funniest, most recurring comments was that horror games should always be first person, that third person cannot be scary. And you know what? They're actually right. Third person can never be scary. And if it can, it's just a one-off. It's just a fluke. Definitely they couldn't make a series of these things. I just found that hilarious. I mean, first person has the... You're allowed to do jump scares. You shouldn't, because jump scares are shit. But you can do jump scares in first person. Doing them in third person is more difficult. I'm not going to touch jump scares. I don't like doing it. But that's probably why people think that horror should be first person, because they used to jump scare clickbait for YouTube. But anyway, let's move on from that before Andrew goes into a crazy insane rant. The other thing that I found really interesting was on Twitter. I'm not even gonna... I don't acknowledge it as any other platform. Also, I'm not really on Twitter anymore. Come check me out on Blue Sky. I'll put links down below. The other interesting thing was the poll. So I put a poll up. Should I change the game? Should I keep it as is? I got all votes for keep it as is, but no comments with good reasoning of keep it as it is. On other platforms, there were a few comments for keeping it as is, but there were no votes for changing the game, but all the comments were mainly about changing the game, about the cool things it could be, the problems I'm going to encounter, and honestly, it just made me feel like changing was the right thing. But yeah, lots of people seemed interested in the change, in something unique. I mean, other people are doing it, but not as many people that are doing first-person horror games. Honestly, in hindsight, I believe I just wanted someone to tell me I was doing the right choice. That I was making the right choice in changing this. And the flame that was lit under me when I started making this, the passion and excitement I was feeling before I even asked the question publicly, it was just phenomenal. If I'd gotten 100% no, go first person, if I'd, gotten all these comments saying that it was an absolutely horrible choice, I probably still would have gone with it, to be honest. I just wanted and had to reconcile in my own mind that, hey, it's okay to make this change. It's okay to do something a little bit different. And I'm really glad I did. So a really quick summary of the changes that have been made. You've got a main character now, with lots of animations. This getting out of the stasis booth was fun to make, and by fun I mean... ooh, okay. I had to write some custom code to switch between root motion and not root motion so the character can actually move when they stand. And there's also a little bit of an issue here with the stasis booth. I had to do some basic 3D modeling so the character's hand didn't clip through it all the time. There are lots of varying environments in the game now. The original demo was just a single spaceship, but this has got a lot more to it, and that was just the trailer scenes. There are also now weapons and enemies, and there's cool little things you may notice, like, hey, the ammo counter actually pops up holographically from the gun, and the health for the player is also on a little device on their leg. Now, this is inspired a lot by Dead Space. I really like the way that everything was ingrained into the world. And I want to do that. I don't want lots of UI all over the place. Really not a fan of that. I like the idea of, even though it is you watching the character, just a level of immersion in the world. This video, when sitting down to write the basic overview and script for this, I thought everything above was going to fit into a short little thing, and then we get into some meaty, cool dev stuff. Like me learning how to blend animations with different body parts. You know, the legs are independent from the arms and the head, so that you can walk around with the pistol rather than running with a pistol at all times. Things like learning how to rig characters in Blender, which I'd never done before, and spent an entire day trying to learn how to use Rigify and then using something else. I've got footage of that. We'll check it out. But also other cool things, like me figuring out how certain enemies will work, like the stonemasons, for example, that only follow you and try to attack you when you're not looking directly at them. That was an interesting thing to code, and really, really cool. And there's also things to talk about, like the weapons, and we're gonna save that for another video, so this one doesn't get overly lengthy. I've got footage of all that, so here, have a quick little cut. But we'll discuss that next time. Until then, please check out the trailer for Decaying Salvage, share it with your friends, family, anyone who might like a fixed camera horror game like the old days, which also the new days, because quite a few people are doing it. But also go wishlist Decaying Salvage. It would mean an absolute lot to me. As I said earlier, I am moving house, so while in the last video I did say more devlogs, with all these sweeping changes, with all this crazy stuff I've been doing, hopefully you can understand why now there haven't been more devlogs. If I'd been showing all these tiny little bits, yes, it might have garnered more traction in the video, the views might be up on the trailer, but I feel like it might have taken a little bit of a shine off it. So, yeah, I did what I did for reasons that I have. I have recorded all that cool little tiny stuff. We'll do another video on it, another proper devlog where you'll actually get to see all that cool animation stuff, the enemies, the weapons, everything I've been working on, everything that's frustrated me trying to learn. But we'll get to it. Speak to you soon.